I guess I misremembered. I was told it was probably fake in 1980, but you're saying it was not till 1988.
October 88.
October 88, there was a radiocarbon dating of the Shroud itself.
Right.
Before you debunk it, if you wouldn't mind just explaining who did that.
Right. So the agreement was, again, the Catholic Church did not take control of the Shroud until the mid-'80s. First, if you don't mind, could I just back up to 1978, Tucker, to the original scientific research? So, I mean, this is amazing, which I'm glad we have this time. In 1976, and I'll get to it, I want to set the context. 2 Air Force Academy professors, Eric Jumper and John Jackson, use a machine that was developed to study the effects of the nuclear bomb called a VP8 image analyzer. It's a brightness map. And they would use that to scan the impact of the nuclear bomb. So that's what the machine is. These are not pastors. These are not theologians. These are professors at the Air Force Academy. They get an image of the Shroud of Turin, likely the Henri 1930s image that C.S. Lewis had in his bedroom, and they put it through the VP8 image analyzer. And they realize there are 3D information encoded in the Shroud of Turin. No other picture does that. I want to make sure this sets in. There's 3D information. There's like a holographic topography brightness map of the man of the Shroud that looks like you're looking at the surface, geography, topography of land.
There's like depth.
There is depth. There's 3D. The way they said it, analytically, there's 3D information encoded in the image of the crucified man. And when they put pictures of their grandchildren through it, it was just smeared 2D images. So no other image does this. So that VP8 image analyzer, you can go on YouTube and watch it done, is what gave rise to what's called the Shroud of Turin Research Project, the scientific Sturrup team, which consists of 33 scientists, 26 who went to Turin, Italy. They had 5 days. They had 120 hours to study the Shroud. Keep in mind, the Savoy family allowed this, not the Catholic Church. This is controversial, but I don't believe the Catholic Church would have ever allowed the Shroud of Turin to be researched. And that's not my saying. That's Barry Schwartz, who was the documenting photographer who photographed the Shroud in 1978. It was the private family, the Savoys, the House of Savoy, who allowed this research team, 33 scientists, to study the Shroud for 5 days. Okay, so they took 4 years. They didn't go on Twitter, didn't exist. They didn't go on social media, didn't exist. They took 4 years to publish all of their findings. And I haven't used this word yet until this point in our interview. The Sturrup team, these 33 scientists, by the way, Roy Rogers says, give me 15 minutes in the scientific method and I'll prove it's a hoax. He wasn't saying that after 15 minutes of studying the Shroud. They all thought they had a free trip to Italy. They were in the lobby, Barry Schwartz, one of the original Sturrup teams, and I met many of them. Sadly, many of them are now dead. But they're meeting over drinks in the lobby of the Italy Hotel in Turin, which is a beautiful city to visit. And they're all joking that they have a free trip to Italy to debunk this hoax. No one was saying that a few days later. So these 33 scientists publish, and they prove, this is the word I'm going to use, it's proven. The Shroud is not a work of art. It is not a man-made image. They can't tell you how it's made, but they proved there's no pigment, there's no dye, there's no paint. They cannot explain how the image is there, but it is not man-made. So for the Christians out there or religiously minded people who think that like we're violating the second commandment right now, looking at this, we're not violating the second commandment, Tucker, so we can be at ease.
What's the second commandment?
Is you shall not worship a graven image. A graven image is by definition a man-made object, a handmade object. The Shroud is not man-made. It's otherworldly. So we're not violating the second commandment. So that allows people
to breathe easier. And what's otherworldly about it? The 3D?
That the image, here's the cool part about the Shroud. I believe we're looking at the moment of Jesus's resurrection, ultimately. All of this conversation leads that something powerful happens on that first Easter morning. It's electromagnetic radiation that's so powerful. We don't have this amount of watt power on Earth. 40 billion watts of energy, but it happens. It's peak power. It's not like the power when you flip on. It took me a while to learn this. It's almost like a cold energy because it happens so quickly in a twinkling of an eye.
It doesn't evaporate.
It doesn't
the linen.
That's what the labs could heat up and essentially tattoo the Shroud, but it would burn up instantly. It would scorch. This didn't scorch. It was the pulse rate, which was so, and I know we're getting deep, but it's important to be nuanced in this conversation and precise. The pulse rate power, 40,000 billion watts traveling at 1/40th of a billionth of a second, we believe is that moment that Jesus' body is resurrected. And that's what leaves this image.
But whatever it was a process that
chemically changed the fibrils at a 0.2 depth, which is surface level, to leave this image.
And that cannot, just for the fifth time, that cannot be applied with a brush.
No, it can't be duplicated. And it hasn't been. One man in Britain offered £1 million to anyone who could replicate the Shroud, and no one's taken him up on the offer.
So if we have a written record of the Shroud going back to the 4th century, how were scientists allowed to say that it, I mean, if we know it existed because contemporaneous sources described it, then how were they allowed to say it was a Renaissance creation?
Well, how are they allowed to say anything that's unfactual? They're liars. And they hate truth and they hate God.
Well, yeah, I'm aware of that. But like just on logic grounds, how could, I don't know, did anybody say, well, wait a second, we've been, someone in the 320s wrote about this.
Right. Well, they don't know that, honestly. Scientists, they don't read these truths. They don't read Christian history. Most media people have never read the Bible. They don't even know
Yeah, but if they're studying the Shroud of Turin, you'd think they would have some grounding in the Shroud of Turin.
Right,
but okay.
Exactly. No.
So they do radiocarbon dating. This was the headline from 88, I guess.
Right, that it's so thank you. So that was the scientific launch to the, so then in the late 80s, thank you for bringing me back. It's agreed upon that 7 laboratories would do blind research, carbon dating of the Shroud. And the scientists who studied it said, whatever you do, don't take the sample from the fringes because the Shroud has been repaired. There's 2 things we're looking at, Tucker, that it took me a minute to learn all this. There's these those lines, those are burn marks, those are scorch marks. These 16 triangular shapes, those are patches. The Shroud survives a fire in 1532. The nuns stitched it up with a backing cloth, and they also
Where was the fire?
This was in Chambéry, France, 1532, before it moves to Turin in 1578. So it survives this fire. It's doused. The Shroud has survived at least 3 fires, and so there are also water stains. You can see those watermarks as well on the Shroud. This is what's amazing. Like if this was a work of art, it would have diluted it. The image would have smeared or vanished. None of that happens. The image is still, as you just saw with the classic invert on my phone, very apparent. And so it survives all of that, but it did come in contact. I mean, millions of people have likely touched this Shroud. I mean, it would be brought out for baby baptisms. That upper right corner would be cut off. Like if I really loved you, Tucker, I would give you a piece of the Shroud to take home with you after having dinner with me if you visited me in one of my castles. I mean, so it's known that aspects of the Shroud were given out even for indulgences. So in the top left, you can see with the naked eye, anyone who pulls up the Shroud can see it is a contaminated area of the Shroud. It's dark. It's been touched a lot. It's the fringes of the Shroud. And so there's an invisible weave there that many great scholars believe that was patched. And so the scholars said, whatever you do, don't carbon date the corners of the Shroud because it's been so contaminated. It's a contaminated sample. Get in the middle of the Shroud and carbon date those samples. So what did this community do? These 7 labs that were supposed to carbon date it, actually only 3 labs did. No one ever answered why 7 labs didn't do it. It wasn't done blindly. 3 labs, Tucson, Arizona, Zurich, Switzerland, and Oxford, England, carbon date the Shroud. What part did they take? The upper left-hand corner that any non-scientist can see as a contaminated sample. And they carbon dated that
Well, it's
sample.
a patch.
Exactly. Thank you for noticing that. Exactly.
Are you're talking about the
very top left?
That's a different color.
Right. It's dark. That is what they carbon dated. And then, ironically, the British Museum suppresses the raw data of the carbon dating for 29 years.
The recent threat of foreign wars has turned news coverage in this country away from what's happening in the United States, and we're certainly part of that. The downside, unfortunately, is that it plays into hands of the worst people. The establishment don't want you focused on the United States because that's a threat to their control. The more closely you look at what they're doing, the more angrier you're going to get, and they're getting rich off what's happening here. The health of everyday Americans is one of the issues that we ignore. More and more people seem exhausted, anxious, foggy, overweight. Testosterone tanking in men is one of the causes of that, and there are a lot of others as well. The medical system just shrugs this off and pushes, of course, more drugs. But that doesn't solve the problem. It hasn't. Joy and Blokes will. Their clinic delivers hand-guided, expert-guided care for hormone health, longevity, cutting-edge peptide therapy. You don't have to leave your house to get any of it. You pair that with their smart supplements, which are fully personalized and have over 3 billion combinations, and you get actual results with no gimmicks at all. Go to joyandblokes.com to get 20% off all their products and their therapies. They're also offering a free 15-minute health coach consultation for anyone who's got questions. Start feeling like yourself again, stronger, sharper, and built to last. joyandblokes.com/Tucker. Root cause medicine, the way healthcare really should be.
Only in 2017, through a French attorney who I'm going to be with very soon at the International Shroud Conference in St. Louis. I encourage people to check it out. The French attorney, through the equivalent of a Freedom of Information Act, finally got the raw data released for the carbon dating. And what did they find? The sample that was used to carbon date it has cotton within the sample, not fine linen. The rest of the shroud is fine linen. That's indicative it was patched. So this whole bias towards the shroud is based on bad science and suppressed science, by the way, 29 years suppressed.
I don't know that was there cotton in Europe or the Middle East?
Yeah, there was in Europe because they would use it for patchwork, these invisible weaves, these seamstresses.
No, right. But 2,000 years ago.
Yeah. This was fine linen. We don't have any other shrouds with cotton. This is the patchwork that was done in medieval Europe to protect the shroud, to preserve it. And so that is what the carbon... So if we're stacking up all of the evidence for and against the shroud, we're in the middle of presenting a voluminous amount of evidence for the authenticity of the shroud and that it is indeed Jesus's burial cloth. And we have one bit of evidence to deny the shroud, this erroneous carbon-14 dating.
Has anyone ever carbon dated the linen?
No, it's not been allowed to be dated since.
Well, I don't understand how you could carbon date what's obviously a patch.
Right.
That I can see from here.
Well, we weren't even made aware of what was dated until the data came out.
So they knew that there was cotton in the sample, which just immediately disqualifies it.
Exactly. It's a contaminated sample.
And they knew that, and they hid it for almost 30 years?
Right.
We're sure?
Welcome to Shroud of Turin research. Yeah, and Ray Rogers, the chemist who said, give me 15 minutes in the scientific method, debunked it in a scientific journal and then sadly died a month later of cancer. And his debunk of the carbon dating got no traction. So I'm happy to bring it up on your program and give him all the credit.
So why not just take, I mean, it's kind of a significant question, right?
Right.
If it's 2,000 years old,
because the Catholic Church is afraid of it. And the Catholic Church has still never come out in support of the shroud. Are you aware of that? Like they're ambivalent about it. They're indifferent about it. And I was just in Turin, so I'm thankful for everyone there who welcomed me. I met all of the scientists. My friend Enrico, the chemist, the shroud is now currently kept in what's called a reliquary. It's the exact size of the shroud. The company, this is fascinating information, the company that creates all of the materials for the International Space Station is based in Turin. That same company created the box that preserves the shroud.
So where is it? In a church?
It's in the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist. In this reliquary, this box, you can walk in and see it today, but it's a covered box and it's 99% argon gas because the two enemies of the shroud right now are light and oxygen. And so they're preserving it. So the Catholic Church has no interest in educating people about the shroud. Again, I'm thankful that you're having me on.
I don't understand why.
Their only interest is in conservation. So they're conserving the shroud right now. The shroud hasn't been on display since 2015 publicly. We don't know when it will be on display again. And yet it's this key to the whole message of Christianity. I mean, it is the death, burial, and resurrection in an artifact. Nothing else does that outside of the Bible except the shroud.
I'm confused. Why would a Christian church want to hide what appears to be physical proof
of the resurrection,
of the core story of its religion.
Right.
What's the answer?
I wish I knew.
Who makes that decision?
The Pope. So technically the Pope is the custodian of the shroud. So,
and that's because
it was left to the Pope, not the Catholic Church. And I was there during conclave, which was an interesting experience.
But it doesn't seem to make any sense. Do you think they're worried that it would turn out to be fake?
Right. I think so.
Okay.
I can't speak. I don't know what's in their mind.
But just to be clear, so far as you know, the shroud itself, the actual linen cloth, has never been radiocarbon dated, just the patch.
Just the upper left corner, which is a contaminated sample. So it was the patched sample, not a fine linen sample.
Yeah, so not the real thing.
Correct. And that's not just me. That's Paulo de Lazzaro. That's Bruno Barberis. I mean, there's Ray Rogers. I would encourage people to study these scientists.
Is there any way, doesn't radiocarbon dating destroy the sample?
Absolutely.
Right. So,
25% of CR14 dating is thrown out anyways. So my area of specialty is paleography and codicology, how we date Bible manuscripts. And we date Bible manuscripts through paleography, not through carbon dating. We date it through handwriting styles to get a date range for roughly 100 years to date Bible manuscripts. We don't do that because, to your point excellently, it destroys the actual artifact.
Is there any other way to date it?
Yes. In fact, it's been dated. That's the thing. Again, thank you so much for asking these questions, Tucker. It has been dated in 4 other scientific ways that conclusively all show that it's a first-century artifact. We have breaking news on your show. Wide-angle X-ray scattering out of the Institute of Crystallography in Rome has shown that the shroud has been getting old. It's been decomposing. It's been degenerating for 2,000 years. They took a sample of a shroud from Masada that's conclusively dated to AD 70, and they compared the shroud of Turin using wide-angle X-ray scattering. This is the Institute of Crystallography. And what they found is that the samples have both been getting old at the same time for 2,000 years. So it's not been getting old for 700 years. It's been getting old for 2,000 years. There was another study done. Linen is made from flax, and it has a substance called vanillin in it, vanillin. And it takes hundreds, if not thousands of years for there to be no trace elements of vanillin in the fine linen. Guess how much vanillin there is in the Shroud of Turin? 0. So if it was 700 years old, there would still be traces of vanillin chemically. There's no vanillin in the shroud. So I don't want to bore you with these details, but they're very important.
They're not boring at all.
There have been other scientific studies that have been suppressed all of the other studies, to answer your question, have proven that the shroud is 2,000 years old from a scientific standpoint.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.